But happy Valentine's Day, everybody. This is a big day for a much more important reason, and we're celebrating what we believe to be, or what has come to be known as Frederick Douglass's birthday. And as so many of you know, Frederick Douglass lived right here in our city. He first lived right down on 7th Street at Nathan and Polly Johnson's house, where he was taken in as a fugitive slave in 1838. And he lived in a number of other places throughout the city and worshipped at some of the churches right nearby, including right over here, First Baptist, as well as over at the First Unitarian, right? And but we know him for many other things more profound. It's important that we celebrate him here in New Bedford because of him and because of who we are as a community and what he means to our own identity. Frederick Douglass was a transcendent figure in 19th century America, really America's first civil rights leader, someone who, through his sheer talent, and he was enormously talented, and someone who had tremendous will and tremendous sense of justice, really got the nation to confront the evil that was slavery in the American South. And to think about it, we've had, she studied the history of slavery in America, and you think about what it would have been like to have been in the position of slaves, and who knew very well that there was an evil inflicted upon millions of Americans. It would take somebody special to lead a breakthrough. And there were people like Nat Turner in the 1830s, who was, in many ways, like Frederick Douglass, who was very intelligent, very well read, very determined, had a very strong sense of justice. But he led a slave rebellion in Virginia that didn't end up going anywhere, and he lost his life, and the lives of many others were lost as a result of it. And at the end, what that told a lot of folks is that there needed to be a voice in the North, someone who could attest to the evils of slavery and do it in a very persuasive way. And as luck would have it, in the 1830s, a fugitive slave from Maryland, who didn't know his real name, didn't know the exact date of his birth, decided to go north. And the place he decided to go was right here in New Bedford, Massachusetts, a place that was among the wealthiest cities in America at the time because of the whaling industry, but it was also a hotbed of abolitionism. New Bedford was a very special place. It was extremely successful at its main industry, and was a very successful city and community. But in economic terms, people made a lot of money. There was lots of opportunity, but it was also a place that was very tolerant, that was very egalitarian, that treated people the way they should be treated, in ways that were really unusual at that time in America. And New Bedford was really leading the way. It's really a source of pride for us that spirit has really informed the way that we are even today in the city. New Bedford is different, and we need to take pride in the fact that we're different. And so this was, for all those reasons, sort of a promised land for this escaped slave who had rock star intelligence, rock star ability to write and communicate, and was just very determined to make it happen. And this is where he came of age. This is where he really started to feel a sense of his role, what his role could be in America, going to public meetings in places right around here to talk about slavery and to talk about the need to change and to talk about the cause of abolition. And it was in those years that people started to take notice of him, and then his leadership grew and grew and grew until the point where, he was starting to really make a difference at a national level and getting the country to confront the problem of slavery that ultimately led to the Civil War, the biggest bloodletting in America's history, but something which in many ways resolved the question of slavery. It didn't resolve the question of civil rights, but it resolved the question of slavery. And resolving the question of civil rights is something that we're continuing to resolve today. We've had many great leaders over the years who have advanced the cause, but today we still work at it because we're not done yet. We still have a ways to go. So in that spirit, we take inspiration from Frederick Douglass, some 200 years after his birth. And we also take inspiration in the work that we're doing to make our country and our city a better place for everybody. Everybody counts. Everybody's in, and that's what Frederick Douglass stood for. That's what New Bedford has stood for, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so proud to be here today to talk about it. And I wanted just to thank all of you for being here to participate in this. It's we as a city need to accentuate the fact that we are not just the place where this very famous man was here, not just the place where this hero was at a very important time in his life, but that his deeds and who he was in many ways a reflection of New Bedford, and New Bedford helped make what he did possible in the long run. So this is a great city for lots of reasons, but we'll put this right at the top of the list. So I want to thank Lee Blake, my good friend, who has, especially in the last 18 years through the New Bedford Historical Society, actually longer than that. I'm not going to say how long, Lee. So,
20 years.
All right, you said it. Has kept the flame, has brought to the fore among the accomplishments of African Americans in our city, but also in particular has shined a light on the role Frederick Douglass played here, and vice versa, the role New Bedford played in Frederick Douglass's life, and by extension, the role that New Bedford played in the broader fight for civil rights in America. So, Lee, I want to thank you for bringing that part of our history to the fore, which is something that we will continue to work on. I want to thank Carl Cruz, the great, I'm going to get it, somebody else, the name that you guys all know. Carl's the grandnephew of, guess who? Sergeant Carney. So we definitely need to get his autograph at the end of this. But Carl, like Lee, has done so much work over the years in highlighting every aspect of New Bedford's history, and we're so proud of what you guys have done to make today possible. And there's more. There's more. I want to thank the city councilors who are here. Council President Linda Morad, who's way over there. Brian Gomes, Scott Lima. Thanks, guys, for being here today. Yeah, Brian's right there. Thank you for being part of and supporting our efforts. I want to thank everybody who's been here today to be part of this, and the students from Kearney Academy. Sergeant William Kearney, most famous for his exploits at the Battle of Fort Wagner in that Civil War, proving that everybody had a role to play in preserving the Union and freeing the slaves. The nation's first African American recipient of the Medal of Honor.
And right from New Bedford, along with him was Lewis Douglass, who was the son of Frederick Douglass, born in New Bedford. Also fought with him at the Bedford.
I knew I would forget some fact today.
No, that's okay.
But anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Lee for. Actually, I'm going to turn it over to Linda Morad to say a few words, and then we're going. Brian Gomes, come on down.
Thank you very much, Mayor. On behalf of the City Council, the President, Linda Morad, Ward 5 Councilor, Scott Lima, it's a proud day for the city of New Bedford. Let me just take you back into the history of the Frederick Douglass Monument that is here. Today, when I heard about the laying of the wreath and what was happening, and before I say that, to Lee Blake and Carl Cruz and the Historical Society, thank you very much for what you do. You have kept the history alive in the city of New Bedford for all for now and in the future, and we thank you very much. Would you kindly give them two people a nice round of applause? With that said, as in the early 90s, this came before us in memorials and dedications for the Frederick Douglass Monument to be placed. And at that time, when it was proposed, they proposed to place it on Pleasant Street on the side of the restrooms over there. And sitting in on that committee that night, I made the motion that the Frederick Douglass Monument be put in front of City Hall. The significance of the history of this man and his contributions, it should be very proud that it's sit in front of City Hall. So I stand here today very proud that that monument sits where it is and not around the corner in front of City Hall, talking about the history of Frederick Douglass. Again, on behalf of the City Council, the entire City Council, we respect and thank you for this day, and thank you for honoring a man with such history to the city of New Bedford. And to the kids, thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you all. The New Bedford Historical Society works very hard to make sure that our young people know our history. We want you to be proud of New Bedford. We are proud of New Bedford. We're proud to put an accent on New Bedford's African American and Cape Verdean history. We were an amazing place, and we will continue to be an amazing place as long as you guys get your education and make sure that you tell the stories too when you get older. Today is the 200th bicentennial, 200th year for Frederick Douglass. Douglass came to New Bedford when he was 20 years old. I know all of you see pictures of him as an old man, but he was a young man when he came here, and he took advantage of everything New Bedford had. The books, the libraries at the Unitarian Church. He went to all the meetings, as the mayor mentioned. He developed his voice as an advocate here in New Bedford, and we hope that with civic engagement, you'll do that too. So thank you all from Kearney Academy for being here, and we'd like to lay the wreath, and we'd like two of our young folks to come and help us. So we identified who they were. We were giving them math questions earlier, and they were answering. Carl. You want to come up here?
You can come on each side of it?
Yep.
Go ahead, Lee.
Thank you all. Happy birthday. I'm going to sing happy birthday.
Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Frederick. Happy birthday to you.
200 years. All right,
And
one more thing that I think will punctuate
A lot of what Frederick Douglass
good.
has done. So thank you, Chris. So some of you, tell me who's read the narrative of Frederick Douglass. So some of you guys,
yeah, we have.
all right. So I have in here a stack for you guys exclusively, but I want you. It's really important to read this. There's a lot to draw from it, right? If you want to learn about what slavery's like, here's a first-hand account, right? And he wrote this a few years after he had left New Bedford. He was still a young man. When you read this, think about who he was, and think about the fact that here's someone who didn't go to school, and he wrote like this. It's extraordinarily well written. It's extraordinarily descriptive. It's extraordinarily compelling. And as you think about it, and there's a point here about education, not just about Frederick Douglass, but education. I've often said to groups of school children that you've got to own your education and treat what you do in school as gravy, right? As the frosting on the cake, but the rest of it is what you do to improve yourself. Here's a guy who did it without any schooling, and that's just something that all of you can do, to work hard to improve yourself. This is a book, as much as it's about slavery, as much as it's about freedom, it's also about personal self-improvement. So read it with that in mind. And as an added bonus, there's a lot of good stuff about 1830s New Bedford in there that's absolutely fascinating and something you'll draw some pride from. So I have these books for you guys to pass out, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Nice job. Nice job, guys.
Thank you, Ed.